at those 5 people. Do research on those 5 people. Do massive research on them. Read their books. Google them online. Look at their social media. Learn about them. See what makes them tick.
Identify this need and something that you were super passionate about, skilled in, and develop that.
Next big campaign I did was with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. He saw what I did with John Lee Dumas, and he said, "Can you do that for me in a book launch?"
Welcome to the Coaches Council podcast with Justin and Pradeep, where the art and science of athletics and business come together to create real-life quality application that creates life-changing results through actionable takeaways. As we always say, nothing changes if nothing changes, so let's get started.
Welcome back to another week of the Coaches Council. It's sunny here in New York City with a sprinkle of snow still on the trees outside. You can kind of take a look out the window, and I love the calming kind of feel of the city after a snowfall, because you've got that power and energy that lives in the city, but yet it's quiet, it's cool, it's calm, and it feels like something's just ready to go. And on our path to high performance, and as we're looking at readying ourselves and stepping up and really moving into our light and our power that we truly hold inside of us, it's almost like a metaphor for what that snowfall does for the city, for what we can do for ourselves. And today, guys, I'm so excited to bring you Brandon Adams, who has an incredible journey, and what he's been able to collect along the way, if you will, from Emmys to books with some of the greatest entrepreneurs in the world. Shark Tank, he'll kind of tell you a couple stories about that along the way, but really just having a major impact in the entrepreneurial space, and coming from small town Iowa, Midwest, and now playing in the big leagues. It really goes to show that you can accomplish anything that you put your mind to when you're clear, when you're focused, and have a system and a path in order to get there. So Brandon, really excited to have you on today, and thank you so much for sharing this time with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to share some things I've learned and bring some value to your audience.
No, it's so awesome. And kind of give me just a little bit of background as to growing up in Iowa and what kind of brought you down this path of serial entrepreneurship and everything that's kind of come along the way.
Yeah, selling ice. That was my beginning. So, selling frozen water for a living. And that was where I grew up. I mean, I grew up in a small town, Garnerville, Iowa, 700 people that nobody's probably heard of. And my dad sold packaged ice for a living. So as soon as I was born, I think my dad, as soon as I could walk, he put a bag of ice in my hand. Literally, I remember when I was 6 years old, I was delivering ice with him to convenience stores and bars and everything else. And so that was my beginning. And I really had the entrepreneur bug because I got to see my father run a business. So maybe I didn't at 6 years old or even 10 years old really understand everything, but it was kind of inground into me. And I witnessed him work with customers. I witnessed him negotiating, wheeling and dealing, you'd call it. I witnessed him trying to build a business, and he did. And so I got to see that at a young age, and that really kind of gave me ideas for my own entrepreneur endeavors. So I went into business with him after getting out of college. I worked with him going through high school, went to college, got my degree somehow because I wasn't the best at getting good grades. Went into business with him, eventually bought the business from him. And then while I got into about 2 years or a year into owning the business, I started looking at what other things were out there. Because I started thinking, maybe I'm not going to sell ice for the rest of my life. And that's where I got into this online world, and I got into video marketing, fundraising, all that stuff. So I always tell people, there's these influencers out there that are online, maybe YouTubers, whatever. Some of them never ran a real business before, which sometimes I don't know if I want to say I had to do that because there was a lot of random things you had to do. But I've run a brick and mortar business. I saw what it was like to work with employees, mom and pop stores, and I learned so much. And it gives me a really good perspective now where they're producing TV shows, about ready to invest in deals or raise money, or even doing digital marketing in different sense. So I'm grateful for the journey. So I guess the beginning, Iceman, selling frozen water, to now, I guess, winning Emmy Awards and producing video content and working with companies.
And it's so key. Something that you said there was you identified this need and something that you were super passionate about, skilled in, and developed that. And Bedros Keuilian said this so well. He goes, not everybody is built to be the guy that's running or creating those businesses from scratch. But guess what? Those people that are doing that have needs as well. And if you can fix their need, if you can aid their need, or if you can come to solidify something that will help them grow even further, you now have become that partner to them in a way that is going to also serve you in an exponential way.
100%. You don't have to. I've started businesses from scratch. I've sold different businesses. But what I do now more so is, yes, I have my own company, but I help other businesses scale. And so it's all right if you want to be the person that starts it. There's a lot of work for the founders. It is like you're starting from nothing, and you got to have more grit and grind and sleepless nights than most people to get it started off the ground. And so more of what I do so now with myself and my partners, the Harringtons, we'll go in, we'll take our decades of experience, and we'll help them scale the business to exponential heights, whether 100 million exit or raising money, whatever that is. And I like the fact that I can take from one selling ice to all these different business opportunities I've had in my life, selling ice of all things, but can take that perspective and now implement it into other people's companies, because we all need, I call it dream team. We all need people to see things we can't see. I needed it when I started, and I didn't always take it, which was a dumb part of move on my part. But getting those mentors, getting those right people around you can help you grow exponentially. And so that's more so what I do today.
Now, tell me how you are able to take this passion that you have, this true skill set of media, and really truly build this ecosystem that has become what it is today. Yeah.
So first off, anybody out there, I look at this. What I did early on is I asked myself, what do I enjoy to do? That's the first step. So like, what do you enjoy to do? Like, what are your passions? And some of you might not know what that is yet. And so what I knew I liked doing is I liked selling and I liked creating things. And so early on, that's what I did. My first invention that really led me to what I do today is I invented this product called Arctic Stick. See this for the viewers or listeners. It's basically a tube that you fill full of liquid, freeze, drop in a drink, and you can keep it colder longer. So I had that idea because I wanted to sell more and make more money in the ice business. I took it to market. I spent over $100,000. And in the process of bringing that to market, I saw other opportunities out there. So I first asked myself, what do I like to do? I like to sell, and I like to put myself out there. I did that. But as I went along this journey of, in this case, taking a product to market, I saw other things out there. So anytime you're going on a journey, keep your eyes and ears open for other things that could be bigger than what you're going after. And so what I did is I went and did a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter.com. I raised about $26,000 a month. I realized that I didn't know shit about crowdfunding, but I saw that there were so many other people out there that didn't know how to raise money. So I saw an opportunity to become the expert in that space and build a business around that. So I spent the next year of my career doing my other things, ice business and all that, but I was building out my specialized knowledge in crowdfunding, and I was building a brand around it. I didn't call it that at the time. I was marketing myself as a crowdfunding expert. I wrote a book on crowdfunding. I launched a podcast show that was going on, I think yesterday was my 6-year anniversary. It's crazy now that I say it out loud. 6 years of podcasting. I was traveling the country, interviewing people in person to, for one, build up my relationships and connections, but learn more about crowdfunding. So I was interviewing experts. Instead of saying, hey, can I pick your brain, which is the worst thing to say to somebody, it's, hey, you want to come on my show? I'll introduce you to my audience. So I did that, and I was starting to build a brand around crowdfunding, and I was becoming that expert. And so what happened is I had my first break. I had on my podcast show a guy named John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneurs on Fire, and he came on the show. He promoted to my audience. At the end, I always asked a question, or I told them what I did. So I said, hey, John, I'm a crowdfunding expert. If there's anything I can do to support you, let me know. He said, I'm actually thinking about doing a Kickstarter campaign for my upcoming book called The Freedom Journal. And I said, well, hey, I'll help you. Call ended. I literally went and I spent a whole day creating a whole page campaign, everything. Sent him the link and said, hey, I can help you do this. Not asking for anything in return. I ended up taking on that campaign. 6 months later, we raised $500,000 in a month for a book campaign. It ended up doing over $1 million. And so that was my first break of being a crowdfunding expert. And so that specialized knowledge and that me asking myself what I like to do led to being a crowdfunding guy. And so I was doing crowdfunding, making money, building out my brand in that space. But where I really found out what I love to do today is I found out that, again, keep your eyes and ears open. I saw that creating videos was a key component to raising money. And so the video that we created in the campaign, the digital ads we did, and I found out that if you can tell the right story with the video, if you can get people's attention, tell the right story and have a call to action, you can move people for change. You can enroll others into your vision. You can sell. And so I went all in on video and then built out Accelerate Media Group, the company. And then what we started doing is we were producing commercials. We were producing TV shows, mainly just doing my own TV shows. We did a movie. And then it led to doing what I do today in terms of using my video and crowdfunding skills in a different way to help companies exponentially grow. So that's the journey around it. But the first part is ask yourself, what do you want? What do you enjoy to do? And then how can you create a specialized knowledge that can add value to others and render services to them where they will pay you in return? And then not only do you add value to them, but you show the world that you're the best at it. If you can build the biggest brand around that, you can charge what you want, you can work with the best of the best, and you can become the top 1% in the industry.
I find that so interesting because through your journey, you said something that kind of popped out at me, was you became the crowdfunding guy. Like you became known as something.
Yeah.
And so often in our journeys, we become known as something. For me, I was known as the hockey player, and then I became known as the NHL performance guy. Then I became known as the athlete guy because you expand your reach a little bit. And now coming into the entrepreneurial and corporate sector, it's continually having to reestablish who you are and what your narrative is, almost like remake yourself. And that's where a lot of times people run into these blocks of imposter syndrome of why should this be me? How can this be me? What makes me different than anybody else trying to do this? And so I'm curious if you can shed a little light on what allowed you to be able to, as you said, see beyond the blinders of what you had on for what you were currently doing and be open to going down different areas, even though you may have not been an expert in it yet, but it was something that you were able to utilize your past knowledge in to create this new path for yourself and not pigeonhole yourself in what society told you that you were known for?
Great question. And it's almost like I've been through different rebrands of who I am and what I offer. And so before, all experts started as beginners. So when I did that first crowdfunding campaign and I raised 26 grand, I was considered in some cases an expert because I had done a campaign, which is more than 99% of the people out there. So I was considered an expert. And so I started realizing, okay, I can be an expert in this space. And so I did a lot of research. I did a lot of looking at things online, campaigns, and I started telling people I was a crowdfunding expert, even though I'd only done one campaign. And so then I did the things necessary to build a brand. So when you write a book on something, that makes you an expert. I wrote a book on crowdfunding. And then the next step was I started going on TV, morning shows, talking about how you can raise money for your ideas. I started the podcasting. These were all things I did to build my brand. Again, I didn't call it brand building at the time. I was just getting myself out there as expert. And when I actually did that campaign with John Lee Dumas, I had only done one other campaign prior to that. But I think the thing that made him
And that was the
work with
$26,000 one, correct?
Yeah, the one before that was 26,000. The one with him was 453,000 in 33 days.
Yeah.
So what it was is, for one, I had a book. I said, hey, I wrote this book, and I showed some clips, and like I had the brand kind of starting to build, but I was eager. I actually took on that campaign for free, and I just wanted the testimonial. So it was proof that I was an expert. It was one of the greatest things I did. So once I did that campaign with the influential person, it led to everybody wanting to work with me. The next big campaign I did was with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. He saw what I did with John Lee Dumas, and he said, can you do that for me in a book launch? And so the quickest way, I think, to get to the front of the line of success in your industry is find some very influential people and offer to do work or a campaign for free in return for a testimonial. And you prove to them your worthiness and what you can do to help them. And they will help you in return. They'll reciprocate. They'll introduce you to their inner circle. And then you have that experience and that track record that can help you get the other deals. So after I did that specific deal, all of a sudden, next steps, I was flown to X Prize to consult with them for a day. I worked with Kevin Harrington. I worked with some wrestlers, some famous people. I raised money for the Think and Get Rich. You ever read the book Think and Get Rich by Napoleon Hill? I helped raise a lot of the funds to create a movie on it. So I was doing all these different things to raise money for other clients. And then I got smart and I started raising money for my own endeavors. But again, I told everybody where I was going. So if you're starting out, like, you got to communicate a message. I was saying, hey, I'm a crowdfunding expert and here's where I'm going. And that conviction on my face is what enrolled those others into working with me. And then once I had those experiences and campaigns under my belt, I was then, okay, I'm the expert now. And then the transitional side is, this is a part of like rebranding yourself. I wanted to slowly transition out of crowdfunding, and I want to be known as a video guy. So I started doing all kinds of video stuff. I started filming more videos and doing my own kind of content. And then it led to doing higher end production. So that was a transition I had to make along the way. And I think 10 years from now, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I'll be transitioning in some way, but as long as I believe you can build out a brand, an influence, and if you can get enough people to trust you for who you are, your integrity, and how you add value to the world, it's like any celebrity out there or actor. After they get out of acting, what do? They have a big following. They can promote their offerings, whether it's a whiskey or a book or whatever. Build enough trust and brand with enough people, you can build a massive business in whatever industry you want to go into.
It's such a great point, is being able to own where you are. And like you said before, you knew, hey, I owned that I only had done one, but you had invested the time, you had invested the research, you had invested the action of actually building a podcast, putting the time in to write a book, doing the things necessary, not just, you say you talked about it, you say you were like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do.
But I did it
but
too.
You also acted upon it. And in doing those things, it goes back to how I relate it to sport all the time, is Tom Brady isn't Tom Brady because he's special. He wasn't born special. Let's not forget that guy was drafted 199th overall, and there wasn't 198 picks that were wrong before him. It was that he had not yet started to engage in a lot of the habits that makes him Tom Brady today. Mm-hmm. Did he have an exceptional talent? 100%. Has he come a long way in doing it? 100%. But it comes down to conviction and being obsessive about the way in which you act on a day-to-day basis, and whether the consistency of those actions are in alignment with where you want to go or whether they're not. And the moment that you choose that they want to be in alignment with where you're going, that's where the confidence starts to breed to go and say, hey, you know what? I don't care. I've only done one crowdfund for $26,000. That makes me an expert. I can do this for you. Give me a chance and let my work speak for itself. And all of a sudden you reap the rewards. And now that starts to mature
Domino.
exponentially upon itself.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good thing to say is people starting out, if you put in the work, you build up confidence. It's like you look at a fighter before he goes in the ring. If he puts in a lot of work every single day leading up to that fight, he's going to have the confidence because he knows he put in the pain, sweat, and tears to get to that point. That confidence level is going to help him want to beat the guy ahead of him. Also, I think being the underdog sometimes, always, like I always want to be the underdog, is the underdog is willing to work to get to that point. The second that you get ego, the second that you think you need to slow down and you feel like, oh, I got it all figured out, is the second you're fucking done. Like, that's how I look at it. So I'm always telling myself I'm the underdog, and I'm putting in the work necessary and surrounding myself with the right people, because that gives me the confidence and knowledge level to perform at the highest game. So surround yourself with the right people, put in the work, because that confidence will help you. And then once you get a couple wins under your belt, that gives you even more confidence and experience to take on the next deal, take on the next opportunity. And so I've been through enough big deals and winning and losing at the lowest level to knowing what, like, I can handle. I can, honestly, the only thing that could stop me is like a bullet to the head. I've been through hell and back, and I've seen the difficulties in entrepreneurship and business, and I've seen the highs. And when you have enough of those, you have the ability to take on about anything.
No, you're exactly right. And there's a quote out there by Brett Bartholomew, and he said, 2 of the biggest barriers to leaving a meaningful legacy are ego and laziness. And laziness always perpetuates us at the base. We're just not willing to put the work in. But all of a sudden, when we put the work in and now we've gotten somewhere, our ego takes over, and that is immediately once we start to fall off the pedestal, because our ego doesn't allow us to do the work that we would have previously been okay doing. And so there's that balance that comes in of continually being a learner, continually wanting to strive and be better and make these advancements to what we've been doing. And Matthew McConaughey said this well. He goes, who's your idol, or who's your hero? He goes, it's myself in 5 years. And it's not because he's egotistical, but he's saying, I need to better myself because I know that in 5 years, I'm going to be a better version of me. Because you're continually putting in the work, both from a mindful side, both from a physical side, but both from a craft side, that is going to make your performances, what you can do, your service, your purpose even greater in that time down the road.
You know, I wanted the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, and they didn't win, but I was also not disappointed with Brady winning because I like Brady. But I was talking with one of my mentors on this, and we both agreed that Mahomes losing is probably the best thing that could happen to him, because if he would have won that Super Bowl, he probably would have been on such a high that he wouldn't have had a hardship to build him up. I think him losing this Super Bowl gives him the ability to come back, to be grounded, and put in the work even more to become better. And I think I look at that for people out there. If you're going through an obstacle, and let's say you're making some wins and you have a huge hit, there's so much to learn when you're at the bottom. There's so much to learn when you're going through the trenches, and that makes you stronger for your next big opportunity. And so I am grateful for my losses, and I'm grateful for the journeys I've had, because they put me in a position to have bigger wins along the way.
You're exactly right. And I mean, Patrick Mahomes even said after that loss, he goes, this is going to fuel me for the rest of my career. And,
it will.
And you're exactly right. Is it something that you'll always come back to? You'll always remember. And it's not the last opportunity he's going to have to face one of the greatest of all time. I mean, whether it's Tom, whether it's Aaron Rodgers, whether it's Drew Brees, if he comes back. It happened, and we're using sports analogy here, but the sports can be attributed back over to business in every sense of the matter. Whether you're trying to build something from scratch, whether you're trying to build something for an exit, whether you're taking over a company, whether you're just trying to start something. You're in a career right now and you're trying to then start a side hustle. It becomes as Brandon said, putting the time in, getting super clear on what you want to become an expert in. Once you identify that, start putting in the time. Build a podcast, build a research, build an audience, get a book on it. Just start putting out content that allows you to provide value to somebody else. And the moment—
Fail forward.
Fred?
Fail forward. I mean, try things. I mean, Patrick Mahomes failed forward. And the more things you try, some people want to make things perfect. And I'm about like learning, making mistakes, learning, getting better. And so I'm about take action. And that's how you're going to get farther versus like, I mean, you got to analyze and look at things, but some people just sit there and analyze all day. But the only way to get real results and to make traction is to do things. Make the phone calls, send the emails, create the videos, do whatever you need to do to get close to your goals. And don't be afraid to fail, because you're going to fail a lot temporarily.
Brendan, you've done such a great job of surrounding yourself with such high quality people that are incredible mentors, people that are incredible visionaries, people that are incredible business people that you've been able to learn from along the way and truly help pave the way to your road to success. And what was your secret or method or I guess you could say system to get those people into your network and then ultimately be able to foster those relationships that then became greater than just service, but also then friendship and business partnerships?
Great question. And this is the answer I'm going to give you, is something that everybody can do. They just got to put in the work. So I first learned the power of it's called the mastermind principle in the book, Think and Grow Rich. And so the mastermind is you being around people, and you, two or more people have a common goal in mind, and they're looking to achieve it. And when you have two or more minds together, the brain power between those two or more people is more than one individually. And so once I realized that, and then I saw the stories about, you look like Henry Ford or Thomas Edison, they weren't the smartest people in terms of like IQ of book smart, but what they had is a burning desire, and they knew where they wanted to go. And they knew if they could bring in other experts in different spaces and coordinate that knowledge to a common goal, they could achieve anything. And so when I had read that book when I was 21 years old, I was lost. I didn't know where I was going. I got a 1.68 GPA in college. I didn't know what I wanted. I wasn't that smart per se in the GPA level. But what I did realize is if I wanted something bad enough and surrounded myself with the right people and added massive value to them, they would be in my circle and I could achieve anything. So what I always tell people is, if you're listening right now, who are 5 people that could completely change your life if you had them as a mentor or you were in business with them? Who are your 5 people, like Matthew McConaughey says, that are 5 years ahead of you? I look at are 30 years ahead of me. Think of those 5 people. Do research on those 5 people. Do massive research on them. Read their books. Google them online. Look at their social media. Learn about them. See what makes them tick. And so that's what I did. And so one example is Kevin Harrington. I researched him for months. I had him eventually on my podcast show. I found out about his story. He grew up in Ohio. He started with a paveway or a ceiling business, ceiling paveways, and then or pavements. And then he ended up getting into selling door to door. And then he got in the heating and cooling business. And then he sold that at 20 years old or 19 years old for 7 figures. And then he got into other businesses. And so I learned everything about him. And then I knew eventually my opportunity would present itself. So then I found ways to help him. I was looking to do an event in Iowa, and I wanted him to be one of my speakers. I did something most people wouldn't do. I sent an email to the team and asked, I'd like to have him speak at my event. Literally just sending that frickin' email. That email led to another 3 months of negotiation back and forth with his team, and I didn't even talk to Kevin. Eventually, I made the commitment to have him come speak at my event. Let alone, this is, yep.
Likely cost you something.
Yeah, so here's the point. This is what I was going to say. What it was going to cost me is the money I didn't have. But I made a commitment with faith, and I was prepared to sell my F-150 pickup at the time if I couldn't get the money raised. So I put a down payment, and I had like 45 days to raise the money. If I didn't raise it, I was gonna have to sell my truck and then go pay for it. I got the sponsors in, I raised the money, I got him to speak at my event. I added value to him. I made him money. When people get paid, they pay attention. I made him money. Then my crowdfunding expertise came in, and then we did a book campaign. We made a bestseller. We did a launch. We raised money. And then we did another deal, and then another deal. I always found ways to help them and make them money. And then when I came up with the idea to do my own TV show, I went to somebody who I had helped many times and said, will you become an executive producer of our show? He said, yes. And then after we did enough deals, we do deals all the time now. We're business partners. So find your way into business people by adding value to them and showing them your worth. So I did that with the right people. And that's always my philosophy. I write down in this book right here, black book, I write down 10 people every year. Who are the 10 people I want to make money? I want to add value to them. I want to be in business with, and I can go to also for my own guidance and getting help. Who are the 10 people I'm going to go to battle with? So figure 5 or 10 people, do research on them, add value to them, make them money, and find ways you can do business together. And so that's been my philosophy. And again, I started from nothing. I started from no contacts, I was in the ice business. So I have no contacts, no relationships, and I found a way to add massive value to individuals, and I was in for the long game. It's not going to happen over 3 months, 6 months. It's going to take years. Sometimes you might get lucky, but after you do build up relationships with those kind of people, it's a lot easier to get other relationships built because it's branding. When you're associated with somebody at that level, people don't question it. They trust you. They want to work with you.
I love what you said there, Brandon, because it's so true. Is so often we highly overestimate what we can get done in a month, but highly underestimate what we can get done in a year. And we want it to occur so quickly. We want it to just happen and happen and happen. And when it doesn't happen, we give up and we change our pace. And we just do not allow ourselves the level of consistency, the level of mental fortitude that it truly takes to start to yield the results that you see. I mean, speaking Iowa terms, we plant the seed, we water it, we wait, and then we don't wait for the
harvest later.
The harvest to come. It's just, oh, you know what? This is trash. But all of a sudden, somebody else comes behind you who's been waiting for 5 years, and lo and behold, they've got these beautiful golden crops that come up every single year, but the patience wasn't there in order to see it through.
Yeah, no, it's 100%. Like I look at this, the philosophy there is you're always planting seeds, and eventually one day you're going to harvest. Just keep planting, always plant, and eventually you're going to have a lot of harvesting.
When you, and I want to get really granular here for everybody, because this is really, it sounds so basic, but it truly does do amazing things. When you reach out to people, how does that process usually work for you? When you have your 10 people written in your book and you're like, this is who I want to go to, what does that process look like for you?
So there's different ways. If you have a podcast show, it makes it easier. So I've done 400 in some episodes in one of my podcast shows and launched multiple. And what I did is I would have people come on my show and I would say, hey, I would do research and I'd be like, hey, I read your book. I think it's amazing. Also, hey, something we have in common. This is just a specific example. We both grew up in Iowa. Like I would name things that showed them I did my research. I would say, I'd love to have you on my podcast show and introduce you to my audience and promote your book, et cetera, et cetera. Usually that would work. And then once they come on my show and we create it, if you're a great interviewer, you create a great experience with them. And then what my best deals would happen is when the podcast part was done, and then you talk afterwards. And so that's where I started building relationships with these people. And that's one step of doing it. Another steps is find somebody you want to find a way to collaborate with. Follow them on social media, comment on their stuff, like them, DM them things. And again, don't ask for anything. Just come from a place of value. You might go order a dozen of their books and send them a thing like, hey, I just ordered 12 copies of your book. Thank you so much. Like little things to show add value and just wait. Don't ask. And it's a different situation when they come to you and they ask a question versus you going to them. Because when people come to you, usually means they want something. So when you go to them with a place of you're doing something for them and not expecting anything, it will come to you in return. Most people do the opposite. So that's another way. And for me, what I've utilized different vehicles to do that is, one, the podcast route, having your podcast show, event route. I've put on events and have people speak at the events and bring value to them and experiences. That's another way. And then the other one is, I've done it for my TV shows. The people that are a part of my shows, we've built some kind of bond together, which was pretty powerful. But when you build enough brand, so for example, now that I have some TV shows on Amazon and got a few of them, and I have all these different things that people think are sexy, it's like this wow factor that people like, wow, like, because they did that, like I'm going to take the time to have a conversation with them, which that shouldn't matter for everything, but it is in a lot of people's minds. Those are the things that get people's attention, or they're going to be more likely to take the time to have a conversation with you. So if you want to like really build an opportunity to get to that level, build your brand. Build your brand. And if you can build your brand enough and build enough reputation online, it's going to be easier for you to get those kind of intros that wouldn't come very often.
I love it. I love it. It's so much value that you're bringing in, guys. As you listen to this, they're very simple steps, and they're things that quite often we think that are so far out of reach for us, and things that only the best do. But guess what? Brandon puts his pants on just like you do every single morning, left before the right or right before the left, your choice. And
some days I don't put them on, but yeah.
You know what? If I took this camera, tilted it down, you would not want to see what's down there. But no, that's the biggest thing is, none of us are different. None of us, we are all dime a dozen. But what makes us different is the conviction, the consistency, and the habits in which we engage in to truly create the results in which we're diving into. So, Brandon, something I always ask our guests that we have on is, what do you need? And for our audience that listens to this and identifies what you need, if they can help you, if they can provide value, where can they get a hold of you?
Yeah.
So first off, what do you need?
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
Honestly, I want everybody listening to just take what you've learned today and implement it, because most people don't. Like they will hear it and they'll think about it. Just honestly, just go back and listen to this again. If you implement this, it's what I've done, and a lot of other people I know have done. It will work. So that's the first thing. Second thing, feel free to follow me on social media. I'm at Brandon C. Adams everywhere. I actually have a new way to connect with me. You can text me. My number to text me, I literally just set this up, by the way, like an hour ago, but you can text me 563-217-6850. That's 563-217-6850. Just send me a text. I will text you back. And yes, it is me. I always like connecting with people. I will take the time. I batch my work and I answer every one of my DMs, all my messages, because I truly want to help people. And I want everybody listening to get some kind of value from me so I can help them achieve the goals that I didn't always achieve early on. So learn from my mistakes and 10x what I've done. What is
the next big goal for you?
Yeah, so I'm in the process of building massive wealth. I'm building out my own portfolio of companies I have equity in. Right now I have equity in 8 different companies. By the end of the year, I'll probably have equity in 22 different companies. What we're doing is we're providing video assets, connections, relationships, and fundraising abilities to being partners with companies and helping them scale. So that's what I'm doing this year. I'm going to build massive wealth while building my brand in the process and creating a lot of video content. And I'm very, very focused on that. And I only like to work with companies, for one, that have a vision to make a huge impact in the world, and 2, are scalable to a level that could be the next billion-dollar company.
Fantastic. So audience members out there, I know you guys are all growing. You're all established in different ways. It's a perfect opportunity to start implementing things that Brandon's talking about. And you never know where that first message, where that first text message, where that first outreach will actually get you. Because as we know, we all start as beginners. Experts start as beginners, and it starts with action. It takes a specialized knowledge to build a brand, to get yourself to that point. But at the end of the day, we all start from the bottom. And the more action we can take, the more focused we can be, the more diligent we can be, the risks we can take in reaching out to the people and being clear of who we can help and provide value to, you can find yourself on the top really, really quickly.
Amen.
So with that, guys, stay hungry, stay humble, and we'll see you next week.